Welcome along to this week's look at the Premier League action with Titanbet as the Manchester derby takes centre stage. Welcome along to this week's look at all the Premier League action with Titanbet.co.uk. And first up this weekend, Swansea take on Everton on Saturday lunchtime in South Wales. Something of a holiday for Everton's players going down there. They're going along nicely in the league. Swansea, very little to play for now under Gary Monk. They've had a successful season. Mid-table, they'd take that every time. I reckon both sets of players are going to be on the beach. I'm going to go for a very lacklustre 0-0 draw.
Everton have got a very good record at the Liberty Stadium and they'll hope to build upon that. They're unbeaten in their previous trips there, except for a League Cup game this season where they lost 3-0. But I don't see there being that many goals this weekend. Most popular scoreline at the Liberty Stadium has been 1-1 this season, another 1-1 draw to add to that.
Moving on, Southampton take on Hull at St Mary's. Southampton still have Europa League hopes involving the end of their season. They're in a battle with two other sides for that. Just a point covers them, Liverpool and Spurs, against a Hull side absolutely desperate for points. Steve Bruce's men, they're not great away from home. They're particularly poor away at Southampton. 1951 the last time they won there. Probably had their ration books with them when they went down on a bus. But this time around, I can't see him picking up anything. No charity from Southampton, going for a Saints win.
Yeah, I think this will be a comfortable win for Southampton at home. It's not going to be a thriller, this one. Majority of games this season for Southampton have featured under 2.5 goals, so I'd go under 2.5 goals. And Southampton tend to win 1-0, so a 1-0 victory as well for them.
Moving on, and 3 o'clock sees Sunderland take on Crystal Palace. Sunderland flying after their win at home to Newcastle, but those games are papering over the cracks. They only seem to get themselves up for the Newcastle games. They've won loads of those. They can't win any others. They've won 3 at home. They need more goals from Jermaine Defoe, although if he's going to cry after every one of them, we could be here forever, baby. Anyway, they take on Crystal Palace. They've been going along very nicely under Alan Pardew. I think it's going to be from joy to woe for Sunderland. I'm going for a Palace away win. Yeah,
fancy Pardew to enhance his credentials for manager of the season. Who would argue with that, really, considering the job he's done at Crystal Palace? They've won 6 out of 7 away from home since he took over. They do tend to concede goals, though. No clean sheet in the last 7 for Palace. I fancy this one to be a 2-1 away win.
Tottenham take on Aston Villa at 3 o'clock. Tottenham all out attack in every game. Their defence is woeful, their attack is great. They're great to watch, really entertaining. Villa still have worries about relegation, don't they, under Tim Sherwood returning to White Hart Lane. I think it's going to be a high scoring affair, but I think Spurs and Harry Kane will outgun Christian Benteke and Villa. I'm going for a 4-3 home win.
Entertaining is not the word I would use to describe last weekend's game between Burnley and Tottenham, though. They did really struggle against the Burnley side who made life very difficult for them. If Villa can repeat that trick, then it could be a tough afternoon for Spurs. I do fancy them just to edge it, though, by the odd goal.
West Brom take on Leicester at 3 o'clock. Tony Pulis is still probably spitting mad after seeing his baggy side capitulate against Queen's Park Rangers last week. They were absolutely woeful at the back. They weren't much better at the front. They never got anything going in the entire game and were put to the sword by a QPR side who'd only previously won 1 game away from home. The Baggies still have a few fears over relegation. Certainly if they play like last week, they will have. But they're up against the Leicester side. Well, Leicester, they beat West Ham last week. They still think they've got a chance. Their away form isn't the worst, but they can't score goals. I'm going for 0-0.
I fancy this one to be a draw as well. Quite a lot of games at home this season for West Brom have finished 1 apiece. I can see the same scoreline cropping up this weekend. Tough to pick a winner between these two. West Brom have just slumped, as you say, recently. 3 defeats in the last 4. And it will be a valuable point, I think, this one for Leicester in the battle for survival.
Moving on, and West Ham take on Stoke at the Bowling Ground at 3 o'clock. Sam Allardyce close to losing his head, I reckon, if the fans don't see a West Ham win. They're definitely on the beach, West Ham. They're not going to go much higher than 8th in the table. I think that's mathematically the best they can do. They're currently 9th. They've had a decent first half to the campaign. Big Sam seems to be under pressure for his job over the summer. They may regret that if they get rid of him. Against the Mark Hughes' Stoke side, always make things difficult. I think life's going to be difficult again for Sam on Saturday afternoon. I'm going for a Stoke away win.
I can't see a winner in this game, and it's tough to predict what the outcome's going to be, given that the fact is both of these teams are pretty much on the beach, as you say. So it's got to go for cards in this one. I fancy a red card in this game. These two tough tackling sides, very physical, maybe frustration getting the better of some of the players.
Finally on Saturday, Burnley take on Arsenal in the evening game. Well, Arsenal still harbour hopes of a runners-up spot in the Premier League, maybe even higher. They're desperately keeping their fingers crossed that somebody along the way can beat Chelsea 3 times in the last 5 or 6 games of the season. Probably not going to happen, but to keep their part of the bargain, they need to win at Turf Moor. That's not easy. Ask Manchester City, ask Tottenham. Burnley really battle hard in the game, but I think Arsenal will just have enough. It's going to be close. I'm going to go for the Gunners by that famous 1-0 scoreline.
That'd be a great result for Arsenal. They are the form team in Europe, aren't they? Been flying of late, 7 wins in a row since that defeat to Monaco. I can see them picking up an 8th win here, but it'll be very difficult for them, as you say. Burnley have not been beaten by more than 1 goal at home since October. They've got a good record against Arsenal at Turf Moor. They make life very difficult for them, but that man Olivier Giroud to make the difference on Saturday.
Moving on to Sunday afternoon then, Queen's Park Rangers take on Chelsea in an eagerly anticipated West London derby. QPR cannot wait to get onto the pitch at the moment. Having thrashed West Brom last weekend, scored 3 against Villa in midweek, they are desperate to take on their high-flying West London neighbours, and they've got a pretty good record at home to Chelsea over the past few years. They'll fancy their chances. Chelsea going about winning the league quietly, aren't they? Haven't been pulling up any trees of late. Nothing for Jose Mourinho to throw his toys out of the pram about. I reckon there will be on Sunday afternoon though. I'm going to go for a Charlie Austin inspired 1-0 home win.
Yeah, I think this one could well be a game in which Chelsea do drop points, but I can see it being a draw. I fancy Chelsea to go ahead. QPR do tend to concede the opening goal in matches, so Chelsea half-time, draw full-time though. I think Loic Remy might score as well for Chelsea, but that won't be enough to give them all 3 points.
No chance of any of that happening. 4 o'clock on Sunday afternoon sees the biggest game of the weekend. Manchester United taking on Manchester City at Old Trafford. Massive game this for both sides. United flying, absolutely flying going into it. They've stumbled into their best formation. They now know what they're doing, more by accident than design. City, the wheels have come off. This team will be broken up over the summer. Manuel Pellegrini may well find himself looking for pastures new, and United are going to add to their woes. They're going to love it. I'm going for United home win 4-1.
Wrong. It's going to be a lot tighter than that. Manchester City, yes, they've lost 4 away from home, and Manchester United have a very good record at home. But this is the derby. Surely there's going to be a bit more fight in City as they try and now secure a top 4 finish. Manchester City have scored in 94% of their away games this season. I fancy it to be a thrilling 2-2 draw.
They thought it was going to be tight the other year when City won 6-1, so stick with me. Finally this weekend, Monday night sees Liverpool take on Newcastle. It's 19 years since the famous 4-3 Kevin Keegan "Oh woe is me" over the advertising hoardings when they blew their title shot. Liverpool, well, they blew their title shot at Crystal Palace last year. It's over again for this year. They may not even make the top 4. There's something of a crisis around the club, according to all the little rumour mongers, but I still think they'll have far too much for Newcastle. They're on the beach. John Carver knows he's highly unlikely to be given the job full time, so I'm going for a Reds home win, 2 or 3-0. I reckon it'll be quite a dull affair though.
Yeah, it'll be easy, won't it, for Liverpool? Newcastle are that bad that they can turn up and play it in second gear and win this one quite comfortably. I think Liverpool half-time, Liverpool full-time is the bet, and to win 0 as well. Newcastle not scored in 6 of their last 9 away games. Not a happy place to go, I would have thought, for the Geordies.
There you go, that's your lot for this week. Don't forget our Ultimate Fan competition on www.titanbet.co.uk/UF for your chance to win tickets to the 3 major finals of the summer in London, Warsaw and Berlin.